Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be getting into the top 50 most valuable pennies in United States history. And as a surprise, 1909S, which is the coin in front of us, VDB, is going to be number 40. So as you can tell, there's going to be a ton of incredible things to look for, whether that's in your pocket change, in collections, or just to be aware of. The first that we're going to start with is the 1936 at number 50 double die obverse, and doubling is when they produce the dies that strike coins. Sometimes they would double them and have the impression be, come down twice. So in this case, you can really clearly tell where they doubled it. There's two clear serifs in the 9. The 3 is totally distorted. The 6 is way thicker, and you can tell that there's like a 1 to the northeast and the southwest. And these start at about $100 and range up to about $8,000 in nicer condition. And I'm going to try to go pretty quickly. Number 49 are different key date and semi-key wheat cents. And so wheat cents were made from 1909 to 1958 with this wheat year reverse. And the first year that they were made, 1909, they had the S mint, which is the mint mark is below the date, and if it's not there, it means it was minted in Philadelphia. But you want to be looking for 09S, 14D, and 31S are the key dates, and then the semi-keys are the other ones that I listed, and those are just going to have a good bit of value, but they kind of range from 5 and then in really nice condition, hundreds of thousands. But the next one after that is, you can tell again, very clear doubling in this one, a double die obverse where the Liberty is super doubled. You can see super clear split serifs all through it. This is a proof coin struck at the San Francisco Mint, not for circulation, but for collectors, and they still messed up and made an error. So these have some pretty significant values. Number 47 is a 1917 double die obverse, and you can see the clear sort of shelving in the trust and In God We Trust, and it turns at 1917. Without it, might just be worth 50 cents or $1 into like a $350 to $6,000 coin. Number 46, we have 1972. There were lots of different double die obverses in 1972, and some of them are just worth $5 to $50. But this specific version is quite expensive, and you can see the clear shelving in the inside of the D and the O, and basically all the lettering in God We Trust. And 1979, there were some die breaks that were made, but this can actually be found, and this is number 45, on any type of coin. Sometimes, again, these are just worth like $20, $50, but for a really big die break like this one, it sold for over $1,000 in 2021. And when the dies that strike the coins get worn down, because they're striking thousands and thousands of coins, some of the metal can chip off, and when the metal chips off, then all the metal flows to where the die has broken down, and it disappears from the other side. Number 44 is the 1970S double die obverse. It's just a bit rarer, really strong north-south doubling in Liberty, and then all of that, again, it looks like you're seeing double in the In God We Trust. This one sort of has a floor that's a bit higher than some of the previous double dies, but the values are only going to climb. We'll talk about the key date Indian head cents. So these were made from 1859 to 1909, before the wheat penny, and they have a Native American on the front of the coin, but the best ones to look for are 1908S and 1909S. There's a S mint mark San Francisco right here. Those are the only two mint mark coins, but some of the semi-key coins, really anything before 1879 is a pretty good one. There's one specific date that we'll talk about, but those are in addition to 1908S and 1909S. Then number 42 is the no D mint mark strong reverse. There's also a weak reverse version, but basically 1922 they only made them at the Denver Mint, but there were some where they didn't have a very strong Denver mint mark, and so those are extremely valuable, starting out at around $750. And the strong reverse, there's a version where the reverse is really weak and muted, similar to the front of the coin. These don't come in like really nice condition, but they are quite a valuable coin, and a key date Lincoln wheat penny. 1877 is the big date. I know I talked about pre-1879 or 79 and back, but 1877 is like the really good date for the Indian head cent series. And so in really worn conditions, you're still going to have at least $1,000. So it's a great key date to look for. And similarly, number 40 is our 1909S VDB Lincoln cent. So that first year, everybody was hoarding the 1909 pennies, but the S mint had a very low mintage, and people kind of overlooked them. But in addition to that, the engraver, Victor David Brenner, put his initials pretty prominently on the reverse, and people got upset about it and told him to take them off, so they struck far fewer with the VDB than without the VDB, and that's why that one is a rare one. It's sort of a well-known coin in history. But then number 39 here is our 1955 Lincoln cent with a double die obverse. Probably the strongest doubling of any double die that I'm aware of that's commonly collected, and was made in 1955, super visible to the naked eye, and they're worth thousands of dollars. Number 38 is a Lincoln cent that was struck onto a New Hampshire quarter. This sold for $13,200, and you can see very clearly that this New Hampshire quarter, which also would have been struck in 2000, made its way through some penny dies and was struck. Very clean looking coin and sold for, again, 5 figures. After that, our next coin is going to be the Close AM 1992 Lincoln cent. In 1992, most of the coins were supposed to have the wide AM, but some of the coins, which were made, I believe, for proof dies, had the A and the M much closer to touching, and those sort of start around $2,000 or $1,000 from some worse condition items and range up to about $10,000. So pretty great. And number 36 is its close cousin, the 1992D Close AM. So on the left, normal AM, but here's the closer touching A and M coin that's going to have a pretty similarly valuable, amount of money that it's worth compared to the last one. Number 35 is a struck on a feeder finger coin. So feeder fingers help the blank planchets get fed properly so that they can be struck, but those are made of aluminum, and sometimes those break off and get struck themselves, and so they're super rare types of errors, and in this case it sold for over $4,000 when one of those aluminum feeder fingers broke off and was struck with a penny obverse and reverse. Number 34 is an overstruck coin that also sold for $4,600. I think something to pay attention to on this coin, it looks, it's been circulated, it was in circulation, but you can tell that there's almost this roof underneath, and then some of the lettering on closer examination has been struck twice and rotated a bit, and they can tell based off of the type of date that that's a 1960D, and yeah, sort of a good reminder that you can look on any coin. It's not a known variety, it was just a one-time happening, but it still sold for a lot of money, and it's pretty rare. 1983, there were some transitional planchet. So in 1982, they went midway through the year from a bronze planchet to a zinc planchet, and they had a few of the old bronze planchets that stuck around and made their way into the dies and got struck. So they're heavier than the 2.5 gram modern planchet, and this one sold for $4,000 in 2018. There's also other years to look for. I think some of those will be in this presentation. This coin was struck on a 40 grain magnetic washer, which is pretty crazy, but there are a fair amount of coins that have been struck on washers over the years, and this sold for $4,900. In 1974S, there's an aluminum coin from 1974 that's supposed to be worth millions of dollars, but it's illegal to own. This is probably the next best thing, where the Philippines, we struck coins for lots of other different countries, and here is an aluminum coin. We were striking aluminum planchet 1 centimo coins. And so this one was from 1974, and somehow one of those 1 centimo planchets got struck with the penny obverse die, sold for over $5,000. Here's another great double denomination coin. This is a 1999 Lincoln cent at number 30 that was struck on a much older 1980D Roosevelt dime. You can see Roosevelt's bust pretty clearly, but most of the denomination and coin is taken up by Lincoln's, the regular Lincoln Memorial design. This one is number 29. It's an 1888 overdate Indian head cent, and it's an 8/7. So at the end of 1887, there must have been an 1887 die that was going to be used to punch Indian head pennies, but they struck over just that one date punch with an 8 to make it 1888/7. It's very rare, and they sell for many thousands of dollars. So certainly the key Indian to look for, and the 1888 is not like a super rare date, so it's something that you can keep searching. Number 28 is this struck on a Philippines 5 centimo planchet. I just thought that this was super cool because it was a wavy edge penny and it's well off center, but it is some type of Lincoln Memorial cent for those Filipino coins. But there's some other later over strikes that we'll be looking at as well. Here's what I had alluded to earlier. This one's a really nice one, number 27, 1989D Lincoln cent that struck on a pre-1983 copper planchet. This sold for $7,500, and it's more expensive and rare because this copper planchet stuck around for a long time before being struck. So if we found an even more modern one, that would be awesome. 1971S. This is also a struck on aluminum planchet coin, but not the legendary 1974. This sold for $8,000, but a pretty long time ago, so probably has appreciated a fair amount today. And it looks like there's some circulation on this, but people must have been like, hey, this is a super underweight penny, I'm going to pull it out of circulation. Number 25, we've got the transitional strike. Again, 1982D. It has to do with the type of date and the planchet that it should have been. So it's supposed to be with this, I believe, small date version. It's supposed to be struck on the 2.5 gram planchet, but this one was the 3.1 gram planchet, and as a result, it's technically like a mule or a wrong planchet coin that sold for $8,400. Number 24, we have an obverse die break. Again, we talked about die breaks, but in this case, the die actually was struck into the reverse of the coin and was retained. It didn't fall away, and so it's a super unique error that's very challenging to find. This one sold for $9,000. Number 23 is a 1965 Lincoln cent that was struck on a silver dime planchet. Super fun fact, we actually struck coins in 65 and 66 out of 90% silver. It's just that we backdated them to 1964, so that's why it's reasonable that we have a cent coin from 1965 that's struck on a 90% silver dime planchet. It would have been so much more incredible if it was a 1967 struck on a silver dime planchet. This sold for $9,200, really nice looking coin. And then after that, number 22, we have a reverse brockage where there was, and it also has the brockage of a 1973 S cent, but this means that a 1973 S cent was stuck to one of the dies, one of the reverse dies, and so instead of getting struck with the die of a Lincoln Memorial, we have the obverse, but the reverse, like the imprint impression of a 1973 S. This sold for 5 figures in 2020. And number 21, we have the famed 1969 S Lincoln cent double die obverse, also super clear, 1955. 5 is the Wheat Penny King, 1969 S is the Lincoln Memorial King, and this one sort of starts at a floor of $10,000, but this one's a great one, really famed coin, and from time to time somebody pulls one out of their pocket change and makes a lot of money. So really fun story and something to look for that's attainable. A lot of these ones now are basically not, especially something like this, a 1981 cent that was struck onto a 1981 Kennedy half dollar. I think that they must have been, you know, at this point sort of playing around at the mint, but $13,000 is nothing to laugh at. Number 19 is going to be a 1943 S Lincoln cent that struck on a dime planchet, sold for $14,000 as well. There's some really famous 1943 strikes because that was the year that we were striking these with zinc and steel planchets so that we could conserve metal for the war effort, but we'll talk about that more coming up in a little bit. This one circulated a little bit, but then somebody must have said, hey, this is the wrong thing, and plucked it out of pocket change. Common story. This one, again, I don't think that this one made its way out of the mint. This was a struck on a Virginia quarter, super nice eye appeal from 2000, and there were a lot of errors made in the 1999, 2000, and 2001 period. 2002 on, we cracked down as a U.S. mint. Right here, we've got a mated pair error, which is when you have both of the error coins that are involved in an error. And as a reminder, in Panama, we strike coins for them, and they have the same currency as the U.S. dollar. It's just in the Balboa, but it's fixed and pegged at a 1-to-1 ratio. So in this case, both of these coins would have been struck kind of at the same time, and I guess I'm trying to think how it would have worked. So we would have this coin get, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. Here's the brockage. So this coin would have been affixed to the dies and struck into this penny. And then this must have had a, maybe they flipped over. Yes, because this was fully struck. So we have the Panama 10th Balboa design in the background, and then must have gotten a strike from an obverse 1974 S. Anyways, sold for over $20,000, this pair combined, both 5-figure coins, but you want to keep these together because it's incredible to have both. Number 16 is the 1856 Flying Eagle cent. This is the first small size U.S. cent, and there's proof and mint state versions, but it was a design after the large cent, which was produced up into 1857. We had the Flying Eagle cent from 1857 to 1858, but there were some very limited edition runs that were struck in 1856, and so super important small size penny. And as a note, we're only focused on the small size pennies today. 15, we've got a cent that's struck on a Sacagawea dollar. The prices are starting to get more expensive. This one sold for $35,000. This 1943 Lincoln cent, again, it's that year where there's a lot of crazy things going on at the mint. And this one was struck on a Cuba 1 centavo coin. That's another country that we struck coins for since I want to say like 1914, 1915. And yeah, $38,000. It's probably also helped by the fact that the undertype is really clear there, so we still see that Cuban star and everything. Really neat. Number 13 is going to be a 1933D Lincoln cent that's struck with a dime reverse die, so it's what's called a mule coin. This one was made from sold for $51,750. Really clear reverse strike. The obverse isn't quite as pretty, and we'll see some other mules later. But this one was an 1859 Indian head cent that was actually obverse, had the obverse struck on an 1857 half dime. We used to have silver half dimes instead of the nickel composition, which we switched to in 1866. This sold for over $70,000. Number 11 is one of those Indian head cents again, but this is struck on a quarter eagle $2.50 gold coin planchet. And that quarter eagle would have been 1/8 of an ounce of gold. And so you can see this is a little bit bigger than the host planchet, so it's slightly off center, or appears, not to fill the full planchet. But that was our first $100,000 coin of today's presentation. Number 10 is a 1944. So 1943, we're striking them on zinc coated steel, and in 1944 we go back to the copper planchet. But there were a few of the leftover zinc coated steel planchets that remained at the mint, and this one got struck with 1944 dies, and so those have been, I believe, observed at the Denver and San Francisco mints as well. Number 9, though, we're going to go back to, and I actually handled one of these. There's 3 of these known. This is a 2001D Lincoln cent, and this is the most attractive of them. The other one sold for about $66,000 and $78,000, I want to say. This sold for $114,000, Mint State 66 red, with the 2001D obverse look and the dime reverse, Roosevelt dime reverse. Number 8 is going to be a 1999. I don't think that there's multiple of these ones known. Super nice looking coin, and it's muled with the dime reverse again. So that seems to be a common theme. Happens because the dime is a pretty similar size to the penny. That's why it's plausible that some of these were made. Though there's a good chance that there's mint interference here as well. If they catch these, they're going to try to find all of them, melt them down, but they become super valuable. 1859, talk about some of the cool mule coins. This is number 7. It's a dual obverse mule, so both of these sides are struck with obverse dies, and I'd be curious to see what this would go for today. It could be pretty expensive. That brings us to number 6, which is our aluminum Judd. It's technically like a pattern coin, but leading up to 1943, they struck an aluminum 1942 cent proof strike, really gorgeous item, and this one was retained in private hands and sold for $200,000 as well. Our number 5 coin is going to be the classic 1943 struck on a bronze planchet. Some of the worst condition ones are going to be worth less than this. This one was $350,000. Really nice appearance. It's got a authentic look. And you can see that there's been a fair amount of like scratching and bag marks, but it's just a beautiful coin, a great piece of coin history. It should be that steel composition. And the number 4 is going to be this gorgeous 1944 San Francisco mint coin that was left over as well, but it's just beautiful. So unlike some of the other ones, this one is in gorgeous condition. That's why it gets to $400,000. We're approaching and certainly past the house range. Number 3, this is a 1943 S, so the S and D are a little bit rare. This one, though, again, nice condition. This one sold for $500,000, upwards of $500,000. Just so much value in this item. Number 2 is going to be a really interesting, and it's maybe a contrast with the number 1, but 1943D, this coin at one point traded hands for $1.7 million, but when it came up for auction in 2021, the bids didn't get that high, and it sold for $840,000. So that's a huge loss that somebody took on this coin, but maybe also represents that there have been people who were willing to pay much more for it in the past. It's been struck on a bronze planchet, and I believe that it's the only one known, whereas there's like 20 total struck on bronze planchet 1943 coins. The Denver mint is the super rare one, and that brings us to our number 1. I know I've been speeding through, but I want to keep your attention and not waste your time. This is the double die obverse coin. One of these recently sold in excess of $1 million, and because it's a recent sale result, that's why I catapulted it over the 1943D. There are, I believe, 2 of these known, potentially 3, but it's plausible that another one could come to market, and super clear doubling, but just much rarer than any of the other ones. This was in the last year of production for the Wheat Penny series, and super strong north-south spread, very clear in the In God We Trust. Again, there were some other contenders like a 1959D Wheat Penny, but that hasn't been certified, so I probably should have put it in, but here's its honorable mention. But yeah, this is the big one. In a little bit worse condition, it sold for $300,000, but I also think it's super exciting because it's probably more findable than one of the bronze. You know, that's a very obvious one. Here on the 1958, while it's obvious, there haven't been that many people searching for 1958 double die obverses, so it's a great reminder to check those 1958 coins. That can even come up in change. I mean, the odds are astronomically low of actually finding one, but it's super exciting, and I'm very glad to be able to present it to you today. So many great coins from 1 to 50, and I could probably make a top 500 pennies list or something like that. That would be an ambitious target, but would be crazy and maybe a fun journey that I can get. So whether it was number 50, number 1, or you get any of these coins on this list, each of them could be a centerpiece of a coin collection, and make sure to subscribe for some similar videos in the future from Treasure Town, trying to do my best to educate from a good numismatic perspective without too much hype, but also staying excited, about the great coins that are out there. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to visit our website, treasuretown.com, to stay up to date on everything going on the channel and possibly get some great deals on coins and collectibles. We look forward to seeing you on our future videos, and best wishes until then.